Guys, we are diving into a new sermon series. Is everybody excited? Yeah, that's right. We're diving into Ruth. It's one of my favorite books. Actually, all of the books of the Bible are like one of my favorites, so you can hear that all the time. But seriously, Ruth is amazing. And over the summer, we did a Bible study at the park, kind of going through the marriage aspect of the story of Ruth. But we're going to be going through a different angle. Ruth is pretty fascinating, and just to give you a little bit of context, some of the Old Testament books, especially in the middle, get a little bit confusing, right? Especially the timeline. So I'm going to give you a little bit of context to the timeline. 200 years before the story of Ruth, we have Moses freed the Israelites. They wandered around the desert for 40 years, and then a guy named Joshua led them over the river Jordan. Right? We understand this. That was about 200 years prior to Ruth. They went through the nation that once belonged to the Israelites through the ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And during that horrible famine, they went to Egypt and sought help. But they're going back, God's saying, I want you to have this land. I gave it to you. I want you to have the Israelite land. But it was inhabited by a bunch of really bad people that are just trying to wipe out God's creation. And so Joshua, book of Joshua, is very ruthless. And if you guys think that the Bible's not interesting, read the book of Joshua. Okay, it's pretty interesting. And so they go through, they don't quite wipe everybody out. And so we're in the period of the judges. 40 years, God takes care of the Israelites, sends a judge, and then passes on, says, all right, here's where I'm at. The judges say, point, there's God. You need to be looking up toward God. You can't be looking towards yourself. They, again, go look towards themselves, and they're oppressed. 40 years again, 4 years off. Guys, here's God. Oh, things get tough. You're not looking towards God. Guys, here's God, another judge. Things are getting tough. And it's during that period of the judges, right before we have the kings. Okay, we have King Solomon, King David, and we have these kings, but we're during the period of judges. Because, guys, is the president, is the king, are they always pointing towards God? They're not. And that was God's point. If you look towards me, you don't need a king. If you look towards me, you don't need a president. If you look towards me, you don't need a ruler, because I'm supposed to be your ruler. But the Israelites don't get that. Neither does the United States of America. But anyway, that's a different conversation. So we have Ruth, and I'm sorry, guys. I got to read through the entire chapter to get the context. But the important thing is it's only 22 verses. So can we do it? Yes, we can do it. All right. In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land. So a man from Bethlehem in Judah, together with his wife and 2 sons, went to live for a while in the country of Moab. Now the man was named Elimelech. His wife was named Naomi. The names of his 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion. They were Ephrathites from Bethlehem, Judah. And they went to Moab and lived there. Now Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left with her 2 sons. They married Moabite women, one named Orpah and the other Ruth. After they had lived there for about 10 years, both Mahlon and Chilion also died, and Naomi was left without her 2 sons and her husband. When Naomi heard in Moab that the Lord had come to the aid of his people by providing food for them, she and her daughter-in-laws prepared to return home from there. With her 2 daughter-in-laws, she left the place where they had been living and set out on the road that would take them back to the land of Judah. Then Naomi said to her 2 daughter-in-laws, go back, each of you, to your mother's home. May the Lord show you kindness as you have shown kindness to your dead husbands and to me. May the Lord grant that each of you will find rest in the home of another husband. Then she kissed them goodbye, and they wept aloud. And she said to her, I will go back. Something skipped there. She wept aloud, and then Ruth said to her, I will go back with you and your people. Naomi said, return home, my daughters. Why would you come with me? Am I going to have more sons who could become your husbands? Return home, my daughters. I am too old to have another husband. Even if I thought there was still hope for me. Even if I had a husband tonight and then gave birth to sons, would you wait until they grew up? Logical question there. Would you remain unmarried for them? No, my daughters, it is more bitter for me than for you, because the Lord's hand has turned against me. And at this they wept aloud again. Then Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, but Ruth clung to her. Look, said Naomi, your sister-in-law is going back with her people and her gods. Go back with her. Ruth replied, don't urge me to leave you or turn back from you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. When you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me. When Naomi realized that Ruth was determined to go with her, she stopped urging her. So the two women went back to Bethlehem, where they came. When they arrived in Bethlehem, the whole town was stirred because of them, and the women exclaimed, can this be Naomi? Don't call me Naomi, she told them. Call me Mara, because the Almighty has made my life very bitter. I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi? The Lord has afflicted me. The Almighty has brought misfortune upon me. Naomi returned from Moab, accompanied by Ruth the Moabite, her daughter-in-law, arriving in Bethlehem as the barley harvest was beginning. There's a lot to unpack there, but I want to hash over a couple things. Imagine that you are Elimelech and you are Ruth. You're inhabiting what is called Bethlehem, one day to be where Jesus Christ comes from. This place called Bethlehem was given to you by God. Can you imagine all the stories just 200 years prior? We hear stories about how our nation was created, and that was over 200 years ago. 200 years before. Imagine what the ancestors were saying. God gave us this land. God gave us this land. He wanted us to have this. And things get hard once in a while, but if you look towards God and you cry out to God, He comes and helps. He has every single time. That's the story that surely Naomi or Elimelech, probably both, had heard from time to time. But instead of trusting that God was going to take care of them again, during a famine, they decided to leave to the land of Moab. Now, there's something interesting about the land of Moab. And what's interesting is the fact that that's the descendants of Lot. So we have the story of Abraham and Lot. Lot wasn't exactly prime example of a mentor, but his descendants inhabit the land of Moab. Now, the God that they served there required child sacrifice. So take that in the back of your head and say, okay, so Naomi and Elimelech, they leave the land of the God who we serve, who said to Abraham, don't sacrifice Isaac. I will provide the sacrifice for you. They leave that God, the God of life, the God of prosperity. If you follow God, they leave that God and they go to a land where death is worshipped. And they expect to find prosperity there. Now, how many times do we do that in our lives, guys? When I was thinking through this, I thought the logic is absolutely skewed here. I think there's so many times that I have people come up to me and say, my kid was really engaged in church, engaged in worship, and was really headed on the right track, and we send them off to college, and they come home, and they don't even believe in God anymore. What happened? You physically paid for better life for your kids, sent them to a professor to teach them who is an atheist, and were surprised about the results. It makes no sense. You take this a step farther, maybe you have marriage problems, but, instead of working through those, you might wind up taking on yourself a job that pays a whole lot more, and then you come home and you have even worse problems, and you wonder, what happened? Well, I thought a better life was going to take care of that. I didn't want to work through those problems. We go through these skewed logic, and here's one that gets me a lot is, and we've had the conversation, if things get tight, maybe we delay tithing just a little bit, but do you think if you withhold from God, He's going to bless you financially later? We have these weird skewed logics where we slip right into the path of Ruth and Elimelech, where we say, things are tough here, and I know that God is on my side, but perhaps I have a better way of living life, and it's just around the bend. I'm not going to check in with God. I'm just going to go around that bend, and I think I'm going to find prosperity. God's not got my future in store for me. I think I've got this figured out. Well, the irony, and it's very sad, is that the land of death that they went to for prosperity, you have a Jew following God, you have a Jew following God, you have two children following God. They're all Israelites. They've all hit the jackpot because they're the chosen people. Who does Naomi come back with? They lost their future. They lost their future, and she comes back with a Moabite. Just think about that. How many times do we take this beautiful thing that God gave us and we say, I think I have something better on the other side, and we come back with less than what we had? Something interesting. She claims here multiple times that God has afflicted her. The name Naomi actually means delightful. And when people run up to her and say, could this be delightful? Could this be pleasant? That's the other word for Naomi is pleasant. Pleasant and delightful. And she says, no, my name is bitter because I'm bitter at what God did to me. Guys, somebody needs to hear this message in here. Sometimes the problems in our lives are ones that we have brought on ourselves because we've gone outside the care and protection of God. He's given us a clear direction to live our lives. And sometimes we say, no, I'm really curious what happens on the other side of this bend. I'm pretty sure I understand what needs to happen with my life. I'm not going to check in with God. I'm not going to check in with him, but I'm pretty sure that this is going to be a whole lot better. And then when things fall apart in our lives, time and time again, we look at God and we say, no, I'm blaming you. I'm blaming you. Guys, that's no different than telling your kid 10 times, don't run up to the stove, it's hot. And when you turn, I think I'm curious. I'm going to run up to that stove and touch it. Dad, why'd you leave the stove on? And the honk of the horn. Guys, this happens to us all the time. We bring sin into our lives and we're mad at God because of what sin did in our lives. Now, there's several times in the Bible where I'm thinking, I'd like to be a fly on the wall. I don't want anybody to know I was there because it seemed like a scary, dangerous place. I want to know what Jesus wrote to the Pharisees in the sand, but I also would have liked to have been on this journey that Ruth, Naomi, and Orpah went on. Because, guys, this was 50 to 75 miles journey back from Moab to Bethlehem. 50 to 75 miles. I don't even like my kid to go across the street to IGA by themselves. I send one of the older siblings. 50 to 75 miles. And they're journeying, that is a word if you say it right, journeying through rough terrain, through a land that worships death, and partway through, Naomi just looks up and says, guys, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. She hears that there's food and prosperity back in Bethlehem. She hears this, but she tells them it's not worth it. You know what that tells me? That tells me that she's not curious about God. She's given up on God. She doesn't want she doesn't want Ruth and Orpah to understand who the one true God is because she doesn't believe in the one true God at this point. She's going through this rough journey and she says, go back to your mother's houses, go back to your gods, lowercase g. Go back to your gods. She's lost complete faith in God. Now guys, have we ever gotten to that point in our lives? Have you gotten to the point where you've lost complete faith in God? And you think that there's just no more hope. I don't even care if anybody knows about God. That's a scary place to be. It's an absolutely scary place to be because, guys, there's suffering in this world, there's sin in this world regardless. And how do you navigate that if you don't believe in a higher power? But Naomi has lost complete hope. And she goes back, and Ruth follows her. And I've long questioned, why do you think that Ruth wants to follow Naomi? And I've come to the conclusion, I don't think Ruth felt like there was a future back in Moab. She was curious about this place that Naomi was talking about, even though she didn't have faith. She was curious about this place that where a God came and saved the people by giving food. She was curious about what she didn't know. Now, the fascinating thing about this is, imagine that you have lost everything in your life, and there's no protection from the wildlife, there's no protection from robbers, there's no protection from anything. It's two women journeying up to 75. This is longer than a week journey, guys. The terrain there in between is horrible. But she says, I'm willing to journey to the unknown. I'm willing to find out what's on the other side of what I understand. Because, guys, here's what Naomi's doing. She's going back to the place she last felt comfort in. That's exactly what she's doing. How many times have we been there, guys? We get into a scary place and we say, whoa, that's a little bit too much. I'm backing up. I'm comfortable over here. I remember this place. It's safe. Anytime a kid gets scared, they run to their bedroom because that's their safe place. Anytime an adult gets scared, we run to help, somebody that we feel comfortable with. Naomi was going back to the last place she felt comfort. But Ruth was willing to journey to the place that she didn't know. This is the place where, guys, we find ourselves many times. I don't know how many times people have said, I really don't know how to get a closer relationship with God. I really don't know how to get on the other side of this hurdle in my life. I want to commit more to God. I want to commit more to God, and I want to commit more to being a Christian and being that Christian example. I just don't know how to get there. I want to believe that God can save me from my sins. I want to believe that there's something on the other side of this world here, because I can't bear the thought that there's not. And we just start tiptoeing into the unknown. But we retreat when it gets scared. And so I got to ask you guys, when you think this story, there's three main characters. There's Naomi, there's Ruth, and there's Orpah. Which one are you today? Are you Ruth, the person that's willing to journey into the place that you don't know? Willing to step out of your comfort zone and follow the leading that God has? Are you willing to step out there and say, I want to know you better, it's scary, but I want to journey through this wilderness. I want to navigate through the weave of sin I've created in my life? Or are you Orpah, and you just want to go back to the place you last knew? Guys, if God isn't back there, what you're seeking comfort in is sin. Or have you gotten to the point in your life where time and time again it seems like you keep getting kicked when you're down? You keep falling down and you can't hardly get back up. And you say, well, doggone it, maybe I just need to try something completely radically different with my life, and I don't care. I'm just going to put the Bible down. I'm just going to go do what feels good. Guys, that's Naomi. God, time and time again, has been loyal to each and every single one of us. And sometimes we don't know it because we're not talking to him. Time and time again, it's kind of like a little kid that you're going out into some dangerous place, and your parents are watching, but you don't know that they're watching. And that way, if you slip and fall, they can pick you right back up. Sometimes you're out just late at night, and this is for you teenagers, and you don't realize that, yes, your parents do know where you are, and they know how fast you're driving, and And it's because we care. Guys, that is God for us. And sometimes we say, would you just leave me alone? Just give me a second to try to figure life out. But he's there for us even when we don't know that he's there for us. Because he's ready to pick us up when we fall. And what I find extremely interesting about this entire story, guys, we all know what it says about why Naomi and Elimelech left. It says they left because there was a famine in the land. And when they returned back, in verse 20 and 21, it says, Naomi says, call me Mara, because the Almighty has made my life very bitter. I went away full. I went away full. But the Lord has brought me back empty. What does it mean to be full, guys? She left because she was supposedly starving. But when she left, she realized that she had something very special in her life. When she left, she realized that she had her faith. She had her husband. She had her 2 sons. When I left, I was full. But when sin enters your life, guys, and it takes over, and it gains control of you, and you lose everything, and you have nothing left to believe in, and you have nothing left to hope in, guys, that's emptiness. And if you find yourself there, God didn't do it to you. Guys, we bring troubles on in our lives all the time. God didn't do it to you. If you have chaos in your life, if you have hurt in your life, it's because you stepped away from the protection of God. You rejected the protection of God. But just like the parents are keeping an eye on their children, if you reach back there and you just ask, God, I need help, he's right there, ready, willing, and able. He wants to help each and every single one of us. He sent his son to die on the cross for each and every single one of us. If we choose to have Jesus Christ as our Lord and Savior, all you got to do is ask. He's right there. He is right there for us. And as everybody comes up, I want to take some time here this evening and just focus on that. We have communion every single week because Jesus created that sacrifice. He took that sacrifice for us. He took that sacrifice because he cares. He made that sacrifice on the cross for each and every single one of us. And during this next song, I want us to just think about that. It's a special song we've sang in our house for years. It's called Spirit of the Living God. And it's a beautiful song, but it's a song that when we were going through some serious spiritual troubles in our house during the time when we were adopting our kids, we sang this song, just basically calling out the Holy Spirit, Lord, please help us through this trial. Because when God calls you to adopt children, he's calling you to save a soul. When God calls you to bring children into your home that do not know the Lord, what he's asking is, you need to bring these children to me. And in the process, you're going to be tempted and you're going to be taunted by the devil. Guys, every single one of us has been through temptation, spiritual battles. If you know God, you've been through it. Because every single soul won for God is a soul that the devil lost, and he's not happy about it. And we can't just turn and go around the next bend and say, I know something better. God called you to where you are, and you have to be seeking him through the entire process. And when you go through spiritual battles, you need to be reaching up to God and saying, Spirit of the living God, please save me. And if you don't know the Lord here this evening, if you don't know that Jesus Christ, that each and every single one of us here serves, I want you to just ask. Ask. Because we want to all be together in heaven. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for today and the message you've given us and the sacrifice that you made for us, your body broken for us and your blood shed for us. I pray that you will reach each and every single person here, because a relationship with you is the best thing that we can ever do with our lives. Jesus.